going to see if I can do a couple samples of this scaling up, resizing with the it's only a square approach. If you have no idea what I'm talking about or giggling about, I have a video on resizing things with a proportional approach that I use squares. So, say for example I want to draw this apple and I want to do it in a much larger way, but I would like to really kind of stick with this drawing that I'm doing, this source that I have. First thing I want to do, which I've actually already done, is to find out the outer bounding box, which I've done by locating the uppermost point, the furthest to the right, the furthest to the bottom, and actually this is the furthest left, I think, as well, but it's close to the side of the apple as well. So then I sketched a bounding box around that, and now what I want to do is to understand the proportions of this bounding box. I'm going to see how many squares I can fit. And it's not going to be a lot, but it is something I can measure and check and test and replicate with a decent amount of accuracy. The square, we know, is the same width to height. So I'm just kind of checking in a couple different places. That seems okay. And so then I have some left over. This amount is what I'm starting to affectionately call the remainder. So let's figure out how that much remainder kind of relates to this square. And to do that, I'm going to start chopping it up into fourths, which is something I can do relatively quickly with eyeballing decently, and I can also measure, because that was really quite not decently. Let's see. Let's see if that's closer to halfway. It does seem like it is closer to halfway. So I'm going to get rid of you guys. And then let's compare this amount to what we are. Ooh, still struggling with that. Let's see. See how quick and easy it is? I trust you'll figure that part out. But let's figure out how much this is in relation to the square. And so we're getting pretty small, huh? Because this is, if this is our quarters and this is the eighths, I'm going to say it's an eighth. And I promised in in a previous video I would never go smaller than fifths. So apparently I lied in that one. You can think of this as one square and a little bit extra, But you know, it's sort of all relative. If it's a bigger square, then overall image that you're trying to measure, and even if the leftover is a relatively small amount, it's going to be visually a decent size. So I'm going to say this is 1 1/8 squares. So first I'm going to transfer that information to a new drawing. And let's see, I'm going to do it sort of bigger, and I'm just sort of estimating to get it really specifically placed on a piece of paper is a couple extra steps that can be somewhat bamboozling. But let's first sketch in a relatively decent square. Perhaps you've noticed sometimes I start with these 3 lines, sometimes I start with those 3 lines, sometimes these, and last but not least, sometimes even that one. So any way works fine, but I just want to take a measurement of the side of this side and transfer that distance over to one of these sides. I'm being a little tidbit to oh, excuse me. Let's see what's going on with that. Usually I would try to clean up my corners so I have a bit of a better idea just where the heck the line is. But I'm trying to find the balance between quick and accurate and not spending all day drawing a freaking square. I said freaking square. Now I'm gonna scooch closer and try to get a little bit better angle. Theoretically should be looking very perpendicular to judge accurately. This happens to be sort of simpler to videotape these. I'm sitting flat, at least for now. So if that's my quarters, and I want 1/8 more, it's going to be about that much. So I'm going to add this much to the top. And that will give me, here's my original. I think I'm even shortchanging it a little bit. Yeah, gonna give it a touch more. So there's my bounding box sized up. And now I want to think about breaking this drawing down into simpler shapes. Maybe simpler isn't the right word, but more important. You know, the largest shape is usually the one is a good one to start with. So I'm going to break this drawing up into a rectangle that has this line across it. And to find that, as well as to find pretty much any other points that I want to find and transfer over here, I'm going to again use just sort of some simple bisecting and estimating where various points would line up with the sides, and where on the sides, if it would be close to the middle point or this point or this point or whatever, and then estimate that way. So as luck would have it, that line looks like it's that the height of the apple looks like it's indeed about 1/8, right about down where we used to take a measurement of how far up we were going to go from the original square. So that's cool. So the apple is going to be about that high. Let's see. It seems like this point of the apple is going to be, I haven't sketched in some bisecting marks for this one. Interesting. I hope that's really supposed to be there. Okay. Once again, check, slow down. So let's see. This point on the apple is really right around here. This point of the apple is kind of straight across. Pretty close to straight across. I think it's close enough for demonstration purpose. Let's think about this point here, and we're going to track that down in a similar way, and that we're going to get my hand out of the light source so you can actually see. Estimate some fourths there, bisecting that, and this point falls right in about there, almost 1.5, a little bit more than 1.5 over. Hope I'm somewhat close. So let's call that okay for now. So then that point is lining up right about here, because that would be about half, and it's just to the right of 1.5. So that's that. See, we have that and that. Let's see. How about you? I might try to make sure I have all the bisecting marks on all sides, but so this point seems like it is a little bit just left of 1/4 this way. So this is 1/4 this way. That would be about 1/4 that way. So that would be right about here. And just because this is taking too long, I'm going to just start sketching, but I could certainly sort of figure out this point. Let's see, maybe I will do it. That's literally sort of falling on the this is falling on the midpoint there, and it's falling about 1, 2, about 2 3/4 up. So there's about 2 3/4 up, and there is about midpoint. So my hunch is my stem is going to attach to the apple right about there. So let's see. Now it's a little bit connecting these. I didn't really sketch in much for the down for the bottom of the apple, but I certainly could have. You probably can't see this apple I'm sketching, but trust me, I'm nailing it. It is gorgeous. Uncanny. Okay, that's fun being silly, but it's decent. And then again, I'm using all of these rectangles that have created nice, clean, negative shapes to help me figure out if my curves are close at all or not close. So I would keep going in a similar fashion. For the stem and the leaf. I am gonna let you work on that though, and enjoy the process of discovery after I at least guesstimate where this guy is. Stem would be something like that. And here's me not stopping. But at some point you might just say, heck, I'm just going to sketch it in, and it's going to be okay. And something like that. Kidding aside, all of this is a little bit trying to come to terms with how representational you want to be. It's nice to have some sort of system to start with, if that's sort of the way you like doing things, or to fall back on when you have started and you can tell something's not quite right. Anyways, that's one way to size up something you're trying to draw.